Hello and welcome to RC Custom Creations. In this video I'm going to show you how I magnetically mount my Injora brand SCX10 fuck off cut. Hello and welcome to RC Custom Creations. In this video you will see how I went about mounting my Jeep 4-door hardbody, available at Injora.com as well as on Amazon. Just type in Jeep 4-door hardbody for RCs and tons of options will pop up on Amazon, as well as I believe eBay for this body. I decided to mount it to a Injora brand SCX10 clone chassis, and if you have an Axial SCX10, then I'm sure my method can transfer over to that chassis as well. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with the magnetic body mounts, it gives you the convenience of just picking up your body, dropping it on, carry on down the trail. Awesome system. And these Injora magnetic body posts, they are extremely strong. Pretty much have to throw the chassis just to get the body off. Overall, very, very satisfied with the strength of these body mounts. If you're interested in the part number for these body mounts, it's CRAW18004. They're sold for $9.35 Canadian on Injora's website. Not a bad deal for the overall quality of components you get. You will have to provide your own hardware to mount the brackets to the chassis itself, unfortunately, but if you're anything like me, if you're anyone like me, then you'll have tons of hardware kicking around and just use what works best for you. So moving forward, I will clear my table. I will put my work mat down, and I'll move on to my next chassis. This one's complete. I'll move on to the next one. I got 3 of these, and I'll show you how I do it. Stay tuned. So if you're going to follow along with me and install your set, how I installed mine, then what you will require for tools is your Allen drivers, your hex wrench or a set of nut drivers, some Gorilla Glue or epoxy. I'm just using the Gorilla epoxy. For hardware, you will require 2 lock nuts. I believe they're 3mm lock nuts, M3s, 2 M3 by 8mm screws, and 2 M3 by 10 screws. The M3 by 10s you will require for the front, and the other 4 pieces of hardware you will require for the rear. Optional, you will see that I use 4 pieces of wax paper along with a couple pieces of heat shrink tubing. Heat shrink tubing is for wire protector for the wire management up front, and the wax paper is to prevent excess epoxy from getting onto your chassis side magnets, because you will require all 8 magnets to be attached to one another when you're epoxying your magnets to the bottom of the body. So moving forward, I will get things ready and we'll go from there. So I've gone ahead and opened up the body mount, and as you can see, there is 2 brackets going one way and 2 brackets going the other. You will require one of each, and as you can see, they'll literally jump right across. These magnets are pretty strong. So you need one of each of the brackets for the front, one of each for the rear. It doesn't matter which ones you go with because they are the same length. And for the front, what you will want to do is delete that portion. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've opened up the package. I've separated the brackets into pairs. They do have a slight curve to all of them. It doesn't matter which pair goes to the front versus the back. They're all the same. You just need to make sure you have one of each for the front as well as for the back. And take your magnets, put them as far away as possible. Take the other set, put them as far away as possible. Otherwise, they may drive you insane. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing in regards to the wire management, you're going to want to take about 1.5 inches of heat shrink tubing, slip it over the end so that it just butts up to the end. And of course, you know how heat shrink works. Heat it up and until it's good to go. Typically, I use a heat gun to do this so that I don't get the black scoring. But it is what it is. This truck's for me, and I really don't care. Okay, so now we got that board, or all done. We're going to take the 2 M3x10s, and we're going to, doesn't matter which way you have your curve. I like to make my curve swing to the back of the chassis. So this one here will go to the passenger side. This one here will go to the driver's side. So as it seems, it never fails. I always forget something. In this case, it's the blue Permatex Loctite. General rule of thumb, if you're going metal on metal, you want to use some sort of bonding agent on your threads. Now, a little bit goes a long ways, so don't overdo her. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to go into the first top hole on the shock hanger. Being careful not to cross thread. And what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to snug things up. You don't want to over tighten it because you want to allow for some room or some play with the bracket when it comes to adjustments on when gluing your magnets to your body. You're going to want to adjust your brackets back and forth as well as your magnets in and out. Moving forward, I'm grabbing my other bracket and putting the blue Loctite to the threads. In this case, like I said, blue Loctite, and I am using the gel type. If you have the liquid type, that's fine. Being careful not to cross thread anything. And there we go. Now, depending on the body you will depict whether or not you want your magnets further out or further in. In my case, I am going to go with on the fronts, I'm going to go flush with the edge of the bracket itself, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to tighten things down there. You add magnets to the equation, it makes things difficult. Okay, tighten things down. Same goes for this side. There we go. Now, the front is now complete with the exception of forward and backward adjustments. So now that we got the truck spun around, you're going to want to remove your battery tray. I've already removed the 4 M3 cap head screws to do so. And to mount the rear bracket, you're going to use the 1 bolt hole in behind the shock hanger. If you moved your shock hangers, you are going to have to move them back forward. Either that or drill new holes. So in my case, I'm going to take my bracket and I'm going to flip it around. This bracket here will go on the passenger side, so the arch swings down towards the rear of the truck. And I'm going to take my M3 by 8. I'm going to pop it in the bracket, then poke it in through the hole. In this case, you don't need no Loctite, as you are using a nylon locking bolt or locking nut. If you're using just a standard nut, then you will, down the road, you will want to use some Loctite. Right now, don't use it because this is just a mock-up. We are going to be removing these off the chassis once we need to do our bends, or so that you can cut your bracket as needed. Moving over to the opposite side, again, bolt through the hole, bracket going out, top bracket portion of the bend going out, and poke it through the hole. Putting a knot on the back side. And then just loosely placing it so that you can move them up and down, in and out. Oh, jumpins. Okay, up and down. Okay, there we go. Now that we got all that dealt with, we can take our Loctite, put it away, and this is where the body comes in. So we're going to take the chassis, set it to the side. So this is where we're going to bring in our body. As you can see, there's no magnets glued. The magnet's going to end up here, 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 and here kind of area. And just going to set the body down. Actually, rather, getting ahead of myself, and take the body set to the side. And take our chassis. Take the 4 pieces of wax paper like I had cut earlier and showed you. I'm just going to place them on the magnets themselves, on the brackets. And then we're going to take each individual magnet out of the bag and fasten them to the top of the bracket magnets. Oops. This just prevents the excess glue from gluing the two magnets to each other. So coming back to ourselves, we're gonna take the body, put it there, move it over so you guys can see, and I'm gonna make up a quick batch of epoxy. So with the magic of video, I have now mixed up my epoxy. I'm going to take the epoxy, I'm going to put a liberal amount onto each of the magnet faces. What I like to do is I like to put a little extra so it goes around the edges of each magnet. Once you push down onto the body. Pins. Too much air. And then here we go. So now that I have the glue on the magnets, I'm just going to take my body, or my chassis, I'm going to flip it upside down, drop it onto the body. Kind of place things where I want it. Making sure that the front bumper is lined up with the grille. And the brackets are lined up in such a way that the magnets are flat onto the bottom of the body. Same goes for the rear of the truck. Kind of want to make sure things are centered. And this is where you're going to want to just let things sit. And I won't bore you guys. I'll bring you back once I come back to this and we'll go from there. So it's safe to say that the epoxy is now dry on the magnets for the body mounts. It is now time to proceed with tightening down the brackets on the frame rails and whatnot. And to do that, as well as to do the adjustments, and to do that you will need several tools. You will need a scratch awl to mark where you are going to do your bends or your cuts on your rear hangers. Me, I like to just take my scratch awl and just run it along the bottom frame of the chassis. You will also need your 2mm Allen wrench, your whatever you are using for a nut driver or four-way cross, a pair of flat nose pliers, and what I like to do is wrap some electrical tape so that it doesn't mar up the brackets themselves. And yeah, let's move on forward. So as I said previously, you have to either cut your brackets on the rear as they are too long, and when your suspension decompresses, your axle will hit the brackets. So you're either going to want to cut them or you're going to want to give them a bend. Myself, I prefer to give it a bend, so I'm just going to take my scratch awl, give it a good scratch. Get rid of that. I'm now going to flip the truck over, get rid of the body. And we are going to move on forward by removing the rear hangers. Try to do this in such a way where my arms aren't in the way. Bracket set to the side, and vice versa. Okay. Why? Of course. Could have swore I was working with the end nut driver on the 4x cross. There we go. So, there's my bracket. As you can see, there's the line where I'm going to do my quick bend. And I'm just going to give it a quick 90-degree bend. Nothing too fancy. I'm going to bend it the opposite way as to where the top portion of the bracket goes, so that it runs underneath the frame of the chassis itself. And you will have a component that now looks similar to this. Going over to the second one. Just taking my pliers and putting it right up to the edge of the line and give it a good bend. This metal is fairly soft, so it's pretty easy to work with. And again, you should have a component that looks like this. Now you may have to, once you get it back on the chassis, you may have to give it a couple little tweaks. And at this point, your magnets also should be adjustable to some degree. Now would be a good time to kind of tighten it up a little bit so that there is some friction. So you can move it back and forth. This way, when you remove your body to give it that last final torque, the magnets aren't going to move around on you. That's the important thing. Otherwise, you'll be chasing this all day long. And going to about the middle. The hardest part about this is getting the getting the driver onto the magnet itself. Because the magnets are so strong. Okay, so that's now adjustable. Pop my screw in. And there we go. Oops. Never to be found again. Gotta smarten up this time. And so in this case, you're just going to want to do just a light torque so that you can do any final adjustments back and forth, and then you'll come back and you'll tighten everything up. I got another nut in this bag. It's nice to have spares for occasions when you drop your hardware on the floor while doing these videos. So there's the rest. You don't need to use any Permatex for this step, as in my case, I'm using nylon lock nuts. If you're using just a standard nut, then yes, you will want some Permatex. All right, here we go. Got a little bit of wiggle to it. Over there. I'm gonna take the body, or the chassis, swing it around, and grabbing the body, I'm gonna drop it back onto the chassis. Upside down. and do any last minute adjustments on the magnets. Looks pretty good there. And this is where you're going to take your 4-way wrench and sneak it in there. Tighten things down. Repeating the same for the other side. And that adjustment should be completed. So, flipping the truck back over again one last time, making sure you're happy with the placement of the body. This is where your final adjustment on the magnets themselves will be done. And everything looks good to me. So, carefully removing the body. Leave anything moved? Nope. Doesn't appear that anything is moved. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down on all the screws for the magnets themselves. Same goes for the front. I believe I've already done these last night, actually. Yes. Okay. And there we go. Just going to double check that body one more time. And as you can see, maybe the magnets are all lining up on the front, and magnets are all lining up on the back. And that's what you want. That's the end for the end result. So now it's safe to take your body, take it off one last time. Take your battery tray and then drop that into place. Depending on the size of your battery and your rear bumper mount, you may have to cut a little notch into these. I'm going to have to do it on this one. My batteries are just too big, unfortunately, to get under the body. And of course, some adjustments will have to be done for that. The overall installation of these body mounts isn't too hard. It's just a little time consuming in regards to allowing epoxies to dry. But if you're using a quick setting epoxy, then you can do it in all in one sitting. You know, grab a few drinks and just take your time. And there we have it. A completely installed set of body mounts with my full suspension, you know, as much as there is with these trucks. And a quick release, pinless body mounting system. As you notice, there's quite a bit of rebound with this truck. There's no oil in the shocks. Going to be replacing the oil. But that's another story. Anyhow, if you like what you see, if you have any other questions in regards to how to install these body mounts, maybe I missed something, leave a comment down below. If you feel this video is worth sharing, please share it with your friends. And if you want to see any more of my content, please subscribe to my channel. I'm sitting at about 250 subscribers at this point, and I'd like to try to double it up by the end of this year. Anyhow, thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.